Alright, hey guys, welcome to the video. If you're new here, my name's Curtis, and today, this video is going to be all about the house of Nishane. So Nishane was one of the first houses that kind of, I guess, really introduced me to the niche world. And man, I fell in love with them. They have such a wide variety and selection of fragrances to choose from, and they're all very unique in their own right. I currently own 9 Nishane fragrances, and so I'd like to talk about these fragrances today. And also, just to kind of put a little twist on this video, if I were to, if I could only keep one Nishane fragrance, which one would I keep? So obviously my number one Nishane is going to be the one that I would keep. So if you're curious to hear my thoughts and opinions on my Nishane fragrances, then let's go. All right, so at number 9 from the house of Nishane, we have 100 Silent Ways. Man, so this one is an amber floral fragrance with a heavy dose of vanilla. You get some tuberose and I think it's some peach in the top. Then when you move into the mid, you get that kind of creamy orris. And then once you push into the base of this fragrance, you do get quite a heavy dose of vanilla and some sandalwood that's adding some extra creaminess to this fragrance. Now this one is unisex, but I think pushes definitely more to the feminine side of things. And I know this fragrance gets a bit of criticism for smelling so-called designer-ish, but man, I actually really love the wearing experience of this one. And if you are into layering, a layering combination that I really like to do when I wear this one is layering Hacivat and 100 Silent Ways. It is an absolutely gorgeous combination that, man, is so intoxicating. You should definitely give it a try if you own both of these fragrances. But this is a great one, and just because it's number 9 on the list here doesn't mean I don't love it. It's in my collection, so it is a definite love for me. But we are kind of ranking these Nishanes to find out which one is my favorite. But yeah, this is a great one, especially if you like I said, kind of ambery, creamy floral fragrances with a heavy dose of vanilla. This is definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of 100 Silent Ways by Nishane. So coming in at number 8 from the house of Nishane, we have Kredo. Man, so basically what you get here is like a subtle kind of suede and oud combo, which comes off extremely intelligent. You do have a bit of creaminess in here as well. You get some sexy cardamom in the top with a bit of pepper. But yeah, this fragrance is basically all about kind of that subtle oud and suede combo. It kind of pushes along the lines of like a Tom Ford oud would to kind of put your mind in a certain ballpark. But man, this is a really, really lovely wear, and I wouldn't say it's like a dupe or a clone of Tom Ford oud wood, but it's just Nishane's take on that DNA. I do really, really enjoy this one, but I kind of have to be in the mood to wear this one. I feel like this is more of like an evening kind of fall winter fragrance for me personally, but I do really, really enjoy this one, and it's a good one to check out. And I feel like Kredo is one of the ones from the house of Nishane that's really underrated. No one really talks about this fragrance, maybe because it kind of pushes along the lines of like a Tom Ford oud would. I'm not really sure. I do really, really enjoy this one. This one is, I think, unisex for sure, but it pushes on the masculine side of things. So, you gotta like that style of fragrance, but this is a great one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Kredo by Nishane. All right, coming in at number 7, we have Hacivat by Nishane. Yeah, so this one's probably the most hyped fragrance on the list. I mean, now you still hear people talking about it, but a couple years back, this fragrance was getting a lot of hype. People were comparing this one to Kredo, which I don't really see the comparison at all, to be honest, other than maybe like the opening a little bit. But this fragrance is all about that fruity kind of pineapple, and then once you move into the dry down here, it's all about the oak moss. The oak moss really starts to push forward in this fragrance. So if you're not a fan of oak moss, that earthy kind of oak moss, then you're probably not gonna like this fragrance. This one is quite potent. It pushes out quite heavily. So you gotta be prepared for that. And I would say Nishane as a brand in general, all of their fragrances are quite potent. They're all extrait de parfums, if you didn't know. So they all perform really well. And this one is one of those. It's a room filler for sure. And yeah, like I said before when I was talking about 100 Silent Ways, I do like to layer this one with 100 Silent Ways. And I also like to layer this one with Ani as well. For me personally, I don't wear this one a whole lot these days. Not because I don't love it, it's just because, yeah, I mean, I reach for other fragrances instead, but this is a lovely wear for sure. I think the opening blast can come off slightly screechy to some people, but I actually really enjoy that about this fragrance. But like I said before, you know, if you enjoy pineapple and oak moss, of course there's a lot more going on in here, but that's kind of the main players. Then this is definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Hacivat by Nishane. Coming in at number 6, we have Ani by Nishane. Man, so this is another one of those fragrances that has gotten quite a bit of hype, and rightfully so. This is just a very gorgeous vanilla fragrance. You do get a heavy blast of kind of citrusy, kind of lemon or bergamot maybe in the top. I don't remember exactly what it is. Might be lemon, but that's combined beautifully with the vanilla here. And it almost comes off as like a vanillic, I don't want to say cakey experience, because I feel like the vanilla in here isn't necessarily like a gourmand vanilla, or should I say like an edible vanilla. I think whenever you smell vanilla in fragrances, it either comes off as edible or unedible. I feel like this is more of like the unedible type of vanilla for me personally. And that's one thing that I feel like Cecile Zarokian, she's the perfumer on this one, does a really good job at. She creates just phenomenal fragrances, first of all, but her use of vanilla and her ability to create vanillic fragrances that don't necessarily smell edible she's just hands down one of the best. But yeah, she's done a phenomenal job here for sure. And this one is a room filler beast. I remember I wore this one to work one day. I did 2 sprays. Everybody was just like, dude. Like they were just like, whoa. And so I realized too, you guys know I live in Japan, so you know, this kind of fragrance in a kind of a tight office space maybe isn't the best idea. So kind of lesson learned on my part. But yeah, this is a beast. But I do really enjoy the smell of this one. This is a unisex kind of, I would say right down the middle in my opinion. But yeah, this is a great one. It's a huge performer. A lovely one, and probably one of my favorite vanilla fragrances. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Ani by Nishane. All right, so we're moving into the top 5. At number 5, we have Papilefiko by Nishane. All right, so this is just a very sexy one in my opinion. And why do I feel like it's sexy? Well, number one, I kind of feel like this kind of pushes into like fougere type of territory slightly. You do have quite a heavy blast of lavender and moss in this fragrance, but at the top here, it is quite spicy. You get a very heavy blast of cardamom. And for me, cardamom is a very sexy note. It just comes off very sexy in fragrances, at least it does to my nose. And that's what this one is here. And this one was perfumed by one of my favorite perfumers, Dominique Ropion. He has just knocked it out of the park with this one. I feel like this one too is quite an underrated one from the house of Nishane. Not a whole lot of people talk about it. I've seen a few people talking about it recently. But yeah, this is a lovely one and definitely one of my favorites. I've started to put a little dent in this fragrance here. You know, I really tend to reach for this one in the fall. I feel like this one really shines, you know, during that season, but you really can wear this one in the fall, winter, and even spring. I feel like spring evenings, this one would work really well. This one is unisex. I feel like this one pushes slightly masculine, but it is, you know, not too far over on the masculine side, just very slightly, just subtly nudged. Man, so this one is a lovely one from the house and definitely worth a sample. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Papilefiko by Nishane. Coming in at number 4, we have B612 by Nishane. And so this is just a very lovely take on a modern fougere. I would say, you know, if you're looking at fougere fragrances, this is kind of Nishane's quote-unquote fougere. This is such a very smooth, slightly creamy, woody fragrance that has a dose of cashmerean in here, which is kind of, I think, if you overspray this fragrance, that cashmerean in here might be a bit, I don't know, it might be difficult for some noses to take, but for me, I do about 3 to 4 sprays with this one and it works a treat. I really enjoy the wearing experience, and like I said, this fougere just smells very smooth. There are no rough edges here. So yeah, it's just a very easy wear, and like I said, it's very gentlemanly, classy. A woman can definitely pull this one off as well, but I feel like this one is unisex, pushing more to the masculine side of things. In terms of all the fougères in my collection, I feel like this is definitely one of the most unique smelling fougères. It's simple but complex at the same time. And yeah, I truly enjoy the wearing experience of this one. I mean, as you can see, I've put quite the dent in this fragrance here, so that says a lot about it. But yeah, this is a great one and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of B612 by Nishane. All right, coming in at number 3, we have Wulong Cha by Nishane. Man, so this one has to be one of the most refreshing fragrances on this list. And this is a spring and summer banger for me. You know, look at the dent here. I wear this one a lot. And with this particular Nishane, I go quite heavy on the sprays, but basically you get a heavy blast of citruses on the top combined with a tea note in here. And there is kind of like a bitter green kind of tinge that this one gives off, but I absolutely love it. You also have a bit of fig in here combined with a bit of musk that starts to push forward in the dry down. But man, what a gorgeous wear this one is. And for a kind of a citrusy, tea-based fragrance, this one performs extremely well. And like I said before, I'm a bit heavy-handed when I wear this one. I tend to wear this one more so in the summertime than I do the spring, just because I like the refreshing quality that this one kind of gives off. And here in Japan, we have very humid summers. So I'm looking to kind of cool down and feel refreshed. And this is the type of fragrance that does it for me. But yeah, this is a gorgeous one. And I highly recommend a fragrance like this for the spring and summer. It just works a treat. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Wulong Cha by Nishane. All right, so we're down to our top 2. Now this was very, very difficult for me to choose. I was going back and forth and I spent quite a bit of time thinking, which one? But you know, all in all, it came down to it. So here we are at number 2 from the house of Nishane. We have Sultan Vetiver. So if you guys been following my channel for any amount of time, you guys know that I absolutely love the note of vetiver. It is one of my favorite notes in perfumery. And so Sultan Vetiver being probably, you know, my top vetiver fragrance in my collection. I kind of go back and forth between Sultan Vetiver and Incident Diplomatique by Javoy. But man, this fragrance right here is a slap of vetiver in your face. There are 4 different types of vetiver. And one thing that I really enjoy about the note of vetiver, it just has so many facets. You know, it can be damp, earthy. It can even be slightly fresh and soapy, green. And so this fragrance takes you through the many facets that vetiver has to offer. And so it is such a gorgeous, gorgeous wear. And once you start to push a bit deeper into the dry down, you get a very, very subtle hint of leather that starts to push forward. But it's not overbearing. I mean, that vetiver remains dominant from beginning to end of this fragrance. But there's also kind of a slight soapiness about this fragrance that I get, especially in the opening. And I think that's coming from like the orange blossom, or it might be even be neroli. It's either orange blossom or neroli that's in this fragrance. I can't really remember, but it's giving off my skin. It gives me just a very subtle, slight soapy quality that I really, really enjoy. But man, like I said before, this one is all about the vetiver. So you have really, really got to like vetiver. And I would say if your nose is not accustomed to vetiver yet, do not start with this fragrance, because there is probably a high chance that you will not like it. You know, you need to kind of work your way in. Hands down, one of the best vetiver fragrances on the market for sure, in my opinion, and definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Sultan Vetiver by Nishane. All right, so we've made it all the way down to the number 1 spot. So at number 1 from the house of Nishane, we have Ambra, Calabria. What can I say about this fragrance? This is such a beautiful combination of green, kind of citrusy notes, and then also a very light kind of spring summery amber and vanilla. And this fragrance does like a complete 180. So this one, when you first spray this on your skin, you definitely get a heavy blast of citruses and almost like a bitter kind of green notes in here. It might be galbanum, I'm not sure. But when you start to push into the dry down, you get these very kind of light and subtly sweet ambery, vanillic notes that start to push forward. And that's when this fragrance just kind of does a complete 180. But man, this fragrance is probably the most versatile on the list. And that's saying a lot considering that I live here in Japan. So there are a lot of fragrances that I just can't wear in the summer because it's so humid here. But this one works. I can totally pull this off. The ambery and vanillic notes that start to push forward in the dry down, even in this humid heat that we have in Japan, doesn't come off cloying at all. It actually comes off slightly refreshing in a weird way. But man, this is such a unique fragrance. And this one was perfumed by, again, one of my favorite perfumers, Jorge Lee. He has knocked it out of the park with this one. You know, if you haven't got your nose on this fragrance right here, this one is something special. For me, this is a 10 out of 10, hands down. Love this one, and it's definitely one to check out. So if you can, get yourself a sample of Ambra Calabria by Nishane. All right, you guys, that's all I have for you for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed today's content. And let me know down in the comment section, what are some of your favorite Nishane fragrances? I'd love to hear about them. Well, I hope you guys are staying healthy and well, and I'll see you in the next video.